Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. I'm Kim Serafini, the founder and CEO of Positive Prime, and it is an absolute honour, privilege and pleasure to have you here today. Joining with me and Henry Bolton, the co-founder of FocusBand. I'm very excited for this conversation. We are recording this. Please make sure that you raise your hand or put any questions in the chat area. And I can see that Ricky's joining us from Perth, Western Australia. Henry, you're here from Brisbane. I can see Patty's here from Pennsylvania. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Mayumi. Hi, Mary. How are you? Hi, Pam. How are you? Hopefully, we'll be recording in the speaker view, and I'm going to hand it over to Henry in 1 second. So I will tell you, Henry and I are fast becoming great friends. He's an extraordinary man, a really, really fabulous inventor, an innovator. He's got lots of courage, but he's also an exceptional superstar when it comes to being a coach or a trainer. He's got amazing stories, and you could spend hours with him to listen how he's traveled the world with the most elite, number one, top of their game sports competitors in the professional world. But he's created something that is called the FocusBand. And we'll talk about what this might be like. I'm actually just putting it in here. We have a very advanced chip in here. It's amazing. And we have an extremely advanced area here that actually does the measurement of what we call an EEG. So again, if you've never been in a Zoom room before, absolutely make sure that you are muted and turn your camera off if you are in your PJs or you're driving or you're out gardening. Okay, so I'm going to wear mine as well, Henry. We're going to do a little demonstration at some stage in the next half an hour. Let's unmute Henry and welcome him. Hello, Henry. Thank you for joining us from Brisbane.
Okay. Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, all righty. So we actually have a few people joining us here now. We are recording. You've got some paper to take some notes if you like. You can ask some questions. We'll answer them at the end. And we've got people from all over the world, right where you're actually dialing in from. Hello, Leah. Hello, Brenda. Hello, McQuan. Hello, Mary. Hello, Melinda. Melinda again. Hello, Carolyn and Pam and Cecilia. Hello. And hello, Lisa. Lovely for all of you to be here. Henry, why don't you take it away, introduce yourself, other than, you know, what I love about Henry, he's humble. Some of the business dealings that we have with truly extraordinary world-class leaders of amazing companies usually don't actually happen with really kind, caring, wonderful human beings who are really humble and so willing to serve and to share. And so, Henry, not only are you brilliant intellectually, or as we say here in the Positive Prime world, you're brighter because you're positively primed. The fact is you're a really, really nice human being as well. Very generous. And so it's really an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to support you with this. I also have been playing with the band, and I've been using it also in professional settings with my clients. We might share a couple of those meetings. I'm absolutely enthralled. It's fascinating. I'm learning so much more. I'm really excited for the future. And just to put this into context, when I actually graduated and was qualified as a sports therapist specializing in cardiac rehabilitation more than 20 years ago, it was really revolutionary to use a polar heart rate monitor to actually tell people what was happening inside their bodies as they were exercising. And it actually got them to commit and be more compliant to their actual change program, whether that was losing weight or getting fitter, for 1,001 different reasons that we do that. Well, what was fascinating was back in those days, we used to have these super clunky blood pressure manual devices that weren't exactly perfectly accurate. Gosh, we've come a long way. And just as measuring what's happening in the physical body totally revolutionized really self-care and healthcare and wellness orientation, the spa industry, health clubs and so forth, I fundamentally believe that this particular device on my head, that's a professional device, not like a toy. There are some consumer products that are a toy-like version of it. I think it's going to revolutionize mental wellness. All of those people who are health coaches, anybody who's related in any way, shape or form with personal development, self-improvement, and training and learning and education. So take it away, Henry, and share your screen and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and why you're so committed and passionate.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. I'll just, oops, not that one. I think I've got the wrong one. There it is. There we go. Okay. Does that all come up okay?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you. They also got a sneak peek of the fact that you're actually associated with some superstars in the United States professional sporting teams.
Yes. FocusBand started off as a sports performance device. Originally, we've been going for almost 10 years now, and we developed it for golfers. We were working with golfers on the Australian and the Japanese tour, and we did everything we could with their technique and their physical training, but they still weren't performing to their best. So we knew it had to be something with the mental process. And originally, it's me and my dad and one other guy, Scott Kelly, here in Australia, that developed the FocusBand. We were all electronics engineers. So yeah, we couldn't really find anything out there that served what we needed. So yeah, we started building our own. And then we realized quickly that it was way bigger than just golf, and we started branching out into other areas, and we're just branching out into business now. So I might show you some of the business slides first, and then we can cross back for questions after that. So I'm going to show you FocusBand Neuro Self-Care. One of the things that we've come up with here is it's really frequency intelligence that we're dealing with here. Everything in the world is resonating frequency. We're just, I guess you can say, we're like a conduit between the artificial intelligence and the universe. The human is the interface to all of that. And then we've just come up with, frequency intelligence, the connection to beyond. Okay. The big one for us is to show how brain frequency actually influences business. Most people aren't aware how much it affects business all the way down the line. I'm going to run you through how that happens. Okay, so the FocusBand is a wearable brain sensing headset. Kim sort of touched on that a little bit before. And EEG it's quite a mouthful. Electroencephalogram is how you pronounce EEG. And that just means the measurement of brain frequency or brain waves, depending on which way you like to say it. So how does it work? Your brain is constantly emitting frequencies when you're in different mental states. So for instance, when you've got anxiety, you'll have higher brain frequencies. When you're in a peak performance state, you'll be in the lower frequency. Now, the FocusBand's 3 sensors pick up that frequency. We don't actually, we just measure, we don't induce anything into the head. So if you can imagine, those 3 sensors are sort of like 3 microphones picking up what's coming out the front of your head. And then we transmit that via Bluetooth back to the phone. Now, how does the neurofeedback work? Your brain actually loves being rewarded when it's in the ideal frequency states. So once we tell it that green is good and music is good, it'll keep wanting to get into that state. And it's an involuntary thing. Once the brain works out how to do it, it'll do it on its own in the background relative to a process. So today's one, obviously, we're going to show you how that works with positive prime. When you're in the ideal state, or when you're watching a process, then we can show you the feedback that you'll be getting at the same time, simultaneously. Okay, so one of the biggest things with EEG has been noise. It's been around. So the EEG was actually invented almost 100 years ago. And they've always really struggled with trying to get rid of those noise, and they call that artifacts. So a lot of our competitors, I guess you want to call them, in this same space, struggle with that noise. We've been able to get rid of that noise and give clean signal while you're actually in motion. So that's one of the big problems. When you move around, your jaw has a lot of noise, just general face tension in your face gives you a lot of spikes. We've been able to deal with that noise with our unique hardware and software. And as a result, the best athletes have chosen FocusBand as their brain training device of choice. We've taken 2 golfers to world number 1, Jason Day from 2013 to 15, and then Justin Rose 2016 to 2018. And we've been in all the other sports as well. So we've been working in baseball, tennis, NFL, a couple of quarterbacks now, some of the NBA players, car racing out here in Australia, and equestrian. That one was quite interesting, actually, the horses. So yeah, we've been in, there's over 16 sports that we've been in. That's the first part that was the first problem solution that we solved. The second part was EEG hadn't really progressed. We've been in it's basically an amplitude modulation. So AM radio, you can remember an AM radio in the car, when we switched to FM, how much clearer that was. Same thing with EEG. We've now taken what was originally AM modulation. We've now created FM modulation, FM neurofeedback, essentially. And we've come up with a single number, and that's called the brain frequency variability. And that gives us a single digit readout of your current mental state. So if you can imagine all of the frequencies of the brain averaged together, that would come out at 10 Hertz. And we have a dial on the screen called the brain frequency variability meter. So when you're in the ideal state, it'll be pointing straight up at 10 Hertz. And then anything to the right will be in that sympathetic state, that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And then if you're slightly in the blue, then you're in that parasympathetic mode, which we're sort of trying to get you there when you're trying to get in the flow states. Okay. Yes, so get asked this a fair bit, like how safe is it? Has it been certified? So we've been certified by the FCC and CE, and using the phone as a reference, there's a thing called a specific absorption rate. So you're allowed about 1.6 watts per kilogram. The phone, like a current iPhone XR, has about 1.08 watts per kilogram. The FocusBand it's almost 1,000 times less. It's 0.001 watt per kilogram that we're emitting. So it's quite minute, the amount that it's transmitting. Okay, so now I'm going to just explain how the brain frequency actually influences business. Are the cameras over the top of the slide, or you can see it okay?
No, I can see the slide.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay. So if you have a look at that circle on the left-hand side here, I might just use a pen here. There's 3 areas that we're looking at here, what make up the electrical part of the brain. One is perception, second is thought, and the third one is stimulus. Sorry, I'm going to just make that a 2. These 3 elements is what makes up, determines your environment, basically. So actually, I'll take a step back. One of the first things is understanding that the smallest thing in our body is frequency. So the smallest thing when you zoom in on a cell is frequency. So we're essentially frequency wrapped around, with skin wrapped around us. Now, when we have, and every cell in our body has perception. So our brain cell's perception is our belief system. So right up here would be That's where our belief system sits. Now, everyone has their own perception of the world. The two inputs to that is the stimulus from the outside world, with the eyes, ears, nose. So sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch all come in here. And then the other input here is thought. So your thoughts come in here. And then our perception determines all those inputs, and then it determines, yes, I'm happy, no, I'm unhappy in this environment. Once it does that, it releases, it goes, I want to be in an unhappy state. It'll release high frequency. Once we release that high frequency, then it will release an emotion. So we use stress as the first example. So once we've stressed out, then that drives a behavior or an action. In the case of business, that'll be disengagement and become unproductive. And the big thing here is that it just keeps going around in a circle. Very hard to get out of once you're stuck in this loop. So what we have to do is create some interventions. And that's what we're proposing here. This is where positive prime fits in beautifully. Now, once we get them into the right state, frequency-wise, we can change their stimulus, their thought, and their perception of the environment. And now they can believe that they're in a happy environment. Once they're in the happy environment, they're in their ideal frequency. Now they're in a flow state. Now they're productive and engaged. As long as we keep up with this maintenance, I guess you want to call it, of interventions, which is breathing, the positive prime work, put that all together. Now we have a solution that is not pharmaceutical based. We have a real opportunity to help people in the world overcome that. It's as simple as putting a FocusBand on their head and watching 3 minutes of positive prime. Now, I'm just going to clear that. Now, the first versions was the simple version. I just wanted to run you through the full version of that. So again, once that high frequency comes out and we release stress, then we'll release that's the emotion, and then we release the neurotransmitters, cortisol, norepinephrine. If it happens for long enough, it'll become inflammation. This is how we engage the parasympathetic nervous system. Then we're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. All the systems of the body are stressed. Organs, heart rate's up, lung capacity's down, muscles get tight. In the case of business or corporate, it leads to neck pain. Neck pain and mental health are the top two problems in business. And then we are now time traveling. We're in the future of the past, and we're also in a finite space. So we're very narrow-minded. It's only one thing that we can see. And then obviously we start again. So this is just the long version of that first slide I showed, just to show you how the frequency influences everything downstream from there. And then, again, with the ideal frequency, obviously we release the right neurotransmitters, serotonin, oxytocin. There's no inflammation. We're slightly in parasympathetic. We're in that rest, digest, aware state. The 7 systems are calm. Heart rate's low, lung capacity's high, muscles are supple. We're in the present moment. And now we've got infinite space, infinite possibilities when we're in this state. And it's all due to the interventions coming in at the right time. Once that happens, outcomes change. Now they believe in themselves that it is possible that they can be in a happy state at work. Okay, let me just go to the next slide. Okay, So yeah, this is some of the stuff that we've done in sport. So I spoke about this before. We did Jason Day and Justin Rose. We've had amazing success with Justin over these last couple of years. He's won the FedEx Cup, won the Olympic gold. Jason Day won a major. He won the USPGA. We've teamed up with a couple of amazing guys. Tom House is the #1 speed and velocity coach for baseball and quarterbacks. He works with Tom Brady, Drew Brees. We've also connected with Deepak Chopra in there. We work with some of the Fortune 500 companies. We're in multiple universities around the US now, USC being one of the main ones. And we work with a couple of Navy SEALs, which was amazing. Amazing experience to do some work with them. Okay, so one of the big things that we've been able to do with FocusBand is once you're able to measure the mental process, you can score the mental process. Once you can score that, then you can score that against KPIs. For business, that's a huge one. We've got the ability to change the outcome if they follow a process, and that can be sales calls. I'm going to use sales calls as the example for today. So just going to go through, I'll skip that one. Sorry, just going to go back. I might just set this up with the dilemma facing business actually. I'm not sure if everyone knows this one, but 85% of employees worldwide are not engaged in their jobs at the moment. So it's a bit of a crisis out there. There's no real solution up until obviously what we're proposing today is how can we help get people back engaged in work. I've got this as the, this should be okay. This is an example of the automotive groups here in Australia that we've started to talk with. One of the big things is trying to work out what are the 3 biggest problems they have in their work environment. So using this one as an example, the customer service is their biggest problem, meeting KPIs, and then phone trauma. Those are the 3 things that cause them problems. Now, once they have that trauma, then again, that's what triggers the high frequency, creates the stress, then that drives the behavior and action. Obviously, it's disengagement and productivity goes down, and then it starts again. So same thing here. This is where we're proposing the input comes in. There's 2 areas. There's the individual problems, and then there's also the group flow problems. There's one thing, the individual to be in a bad headspace, but when it affects the whole team, then obviously the whole team's not resonating on the same frequency. It forms a bad culture in the company. For health reasons, obviously stress, anxiety, depression. For performance, you know, the sales go down, poor customer service, they're lacking productivity. So the solutions that we've come up with, there's 3 levels. So what we've come up with is individual health. So we want to make sure that that they're healthy mentally. Once we've got their mental health right, then we work on individual performance. We're going to run you through that next. And then we've also got an app called Group Flow, so we can also build group performance. This is how we do the individual health. I might run through this on the actual app. I won't go into too much detail on the deck, but essentially we do brain training. Then we have some physical exercises, and then we have the neuro interventions. The positive prime fits in right there. And then once we get them into the ideal state, then we work on group flow. Now, once everyone's in the ideal state together, then the health, we have flow states, they have good mental health, physical health, they enjoy going into their work environment. On the performance side of things, obviously improve sales, improve productivity and collaboration. I'm going to just skip through to here. Okay, so one of the big things that we found was in the mental health or digital health products, we have a readout for everything else. You know, we have one for temperature, we have one for blood pressure, we have one for HRV, and up until now, we really haven't had a single digit index for mental health to measure the brain. So the brain frequency variability allows us to do that now. We can now have a single digit number that you can now benchmark. You compare apples with apples inside the workplace. If someone's in a bad state, obviously they're going to be up over, whoops, sorry. They're going to be over to the right, somewhere over here in the yellow or the red. And there's an actual number. So the number will scale from 10 all the way up to 10 all the way down to 1 to the right here. Okay. The brain frequency meter is a real-time meter on the left here. And you can see how we've set that up. You can see it. The further we go to the right is where stress, anxiety, and depression start to come in. Once we move away from real time and apply that to a graph, now we can start tracking progress over time. So it's the same color scheme. When you're in the ideal state, you'll be in the green area. When you're getting into the yellow, you're starting to get stressed, and then up high is that depression area. Now, what that allows us to do is we can now measure mental process against that BFV. So in the case of business, we can measure a sales call, for instance, sales training, and we can track that progress over time. Once we can track that over time, then we can track, now we can track that against result. In business, it'll be a straight KPI. Does that increase their sales? Yeah, it increased sales. Now, this is the individual health and performance dashboard. We can show you where you are. I'll just move this camera out of the way. Yeah, we can show you your health, which is with the breathing, fluid mind, and interventions. And then we can also show with their sales, how they're going with their sales training. We can actually measure while they're actually on the phone to the client. And then we can also measure group flow, which I'm going to show in a demo after this. I think me and Kim are going to do a live demo. Yep. Okay. And then this is group flow. So what this allows us to do is show each individual person's flow state, and then we can also see it as a group. How are they performing as a group? Are they engaged or are they disengaged with each other? That's the basis of it. I might stop there. Do we have any questions so far?
Feel free to type your question in the Zoom, the group chat area, and we'll see if we can answer them. Okay, let's go to some precise case studies or examples or stories, Henry, whilst we actually get it up and running to demonstrate to people.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Let's tell some stories whilst we get it up and running to actually demonstrate.
Okay.
And anybody who has any questions can jump on in. Whilst you're doing that, Henry, I'll just quickly explain to everybody that when Henry says that Jason Day and Justin Rose got to world #1 on the professional golfing circuit, he was actually literally employed to travel with them as their brain performance coach or their trainer. Certainly he lived life on the road. A lot of what's happening for FocusBand is that the people who know golfers who've been impacted by Henry's coaching have now started to actually ask Henry to do lots of other work. So there's a golfer at one club who says, hey, I've got an autistic child. Can we please see what's happening in the brain, and could you please coach my child? There's another golfer at another club who says, hey, I've actually got a parent who has Parkinson's, and can we actually see what's happening there? And in all of these cases, Henry has been instrumental in showing how the actual app and the band guide somebody through a change process. And effectively, what happened when Henry and I were both presenting at a conference a couple of weeks ago was that he was looking at what I was saying and I was looking at what he was saying, and we thought, wouldn't it be absolutely fantastic if we shared some resources and we actually helped each other? I, of course, I can tell people that the clinical studies, the hardcore research that has been done in the fields of neuroscience and positive psychology around positive priming says that your brain in a positive prime state allows you to be more resourceful. It allows you to make more accurate decisions faster. It allows you to actually build up your resilience. We actually also know long-term that when we're in happy, healthy states, when we've been positively primed, we balance out the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. We actually should be able to sleep more soundly. When we sleep more soundly, we should be actually in a state where we're causing the body to regenerate itself. Now, what's beautiful about this is that everything that we say, we can prove instantly, like absolutely live for a real person. And so what happened was I put a band on my head. I actually downloaded the app as Henry showed me, and I started to learn to breathe diaphragmatically and to actually focus my eyes on a single point. And I could see that effectively my brain was in a state of green. What it interestingly enough did for me was that it actually calmed me down even more. It gave me really positive feedback. I felt more confident and composed. And in fact, all of that is actually helping to make me healthier as well. So, Henry, why don't you describe a little bit what's happening here? Because I have now been using this band on my clients' heads. I have been guiding them through the apps. I show them what happens inside my own brain. I show them that if I talk about something that really is upsetting to me, I essentially go orange and red. If I talk about universal divine love and about collaboration and connection, and I talk about what I'm truly grateful for, and I'm thinking and feeling that, wow, I'm in dark green, right? Is this actually your brain, Henry?
It is.
So
I thought I'd show the FocusBand that first.
Look at you now talking, going into red, because you were starting to think about what you were saying.
Yes. So there's a couple of things. You can see this is the original FocusBand app. So up the top here, when my brain, if I get into a thinking state, it'll go into this side, the prefrontal cortex. And then when I'm in a flow state, it'll be on this side. Now the thing coming out, and so we call, when we're in the right-hand side of the brain, we call that mushin, which is up the top right of the screen. And mushin is a Japanese word that means mind of no mind. Now, you might see a green beam come out. There we go. And that's called quiet eye. Quiet eye is when your eyes stabilize on an object. Obviously, we use that for sports performance originally. For business, I'm going to show you the other app that we're going to use for business. I thought I'd just show you that app first.
And Henry, isn't it true that the brain and the body are so magnificent, they're so remarkable, that once you're actually trained into your body sensing what it is like to actually have this incredible focus and what it's like to actually be diaphragmatically breathing and to be in this green state, your brain and body literally adjusts itself billions of times to make sure that you actually recreate this state, because it's naturally rewarding to your body. Your body actually wants this. And so this becomes addictive. And so billions of little processes happen to help you stay in alignment with this state. And what you were saying to me about the golfers is that if you could actually give them immediate feedback, you're looking at the app whilst they're actually lining up their shot, they're looking at the ball, they're looking down the fairway, you could actually help them to understand how they were feeling and when they had quiet eye before they hit their shot. And as soon as you gave them that feedback, they knew, their bodies knew. Their senses are taking in all of that information and they can recreate that.
That's right. Yes. Did you want me to show a video of how we've done it with golf?
Yeah, sure, if you like.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just switch over to that one. Oops.
So interestingly enough, oftentimes the people who are most brilliant, people like Henry, who are exceptional elite golfers, because what you have failed to say, that even though you're an electronics engineer, Henry, and even though you're courageous and innovative and you run a global company that quite frankly is incredibly profitable and successful, you're also an elite athlete. And to this day, you also still charge like $10,000 a week to actually coach elite athletes, in particular in golf. So the fact is he's really super busy. And oftentimes, if we are absolutely brilliant as elite athletes and we're absolutely brilliant as electronics engineers, we might not necessarily be absolutely brilliant in other areas of our lives, which is why we want to be watching a spectrum of positive prime sessions so that we have this learning and developing, continuing in all sorts of different areas across our lives. So anyway, I just thought that I would interject there and explain a little bit more about Henry.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to start this video so you can see how this. So it allows us to see what's happening in real time while they're actually hitting shots.
So she's in green, even though she's active, she's recruiting all of her muscles. And then she's thinking about where her shot went. Is that why she goes into red?
Yes, yeah, she's judging it. So that was a good swing. I'm just showing this just so you can see from the outside. It's very hard to tell that she's in a bad state or a good state from the outside.
So she's thinking, she's in judgment. She's got a lot of beta wave activity going on. She's not in delta, she's not in alpha, she's not in gamma, she's not in pure flow. She's in red. Oh, she's getting there.
So you never really know until you obviously measure and see what's happening, what's going on inside their head. It makes it such a big advantage to find out what their blockages are while they're on the course. It's the same thing in business, like finding out what the blockages are when they're, whatever the thing is, if they're doing a sales call or presentation, etc. Okay, let me just change back to, I'm just going to bring up the app again. Okay.
So Henry, if you see that somebody hasn't got a recording of quiet eye, you know that they haven't actually had their eyes locked in on a particular target. They've been super focused.
Let me just.
Look at you. I love it how you know how to hook up your iPhone screen so that we can all see. Whereas I'm still in the ancient dark ages and I'm saying, okay, so I'm now in the group flow app and I'm showing the camera.
There we go. So might use this one. This is the app that we're using for business, the first app that we're using in business. And this app allows us, if I go down the list here, we go from pillars through breathing, there's a fish game, then the brain training, and then interventions. So I'll start with the pillars. Pillars allows us to take a subjective measurement input from the user. So for instance, say mood was good yesterday, I didn't eat that good yesterday, good rest, okay, and then not much fitness, day off, environment was good. Now once I've done that, then I can save that, and then I can put in notes. It's like a rest day. This just allows us to track the user's input as to how they're feeling. Once we've done that, then we get into the breathing app. Now we can set this up, we can customize it to any breathing format. So some people, like I'm currently using the potato method of breathing, which is inhale for 3, no pause, exhale for 3, and then pause for 2. You can customize that to any way you want. So I'm just going to show that as an example. It's all guided instruction, guided voice or guided sound. And then we also have the visuals on the screen.
You know what I absolutely love about this, Henry, is that people think that you can only be in flow state when you're in a deep meditation, when there's no chaos going on around you, you're not talking, there's no music, there are no crowds, for example. And what this does is it allows you to know that even in a negotiation where there are lots of players in the room, you can actually still maintain a really healthy, balanced brain frequency variability, right? I was going to do the summary there, the BFE, yeah. Right? So what is remarkable is that I think that the world believes that moments of mindfulness or moments of meditation where there is actually cellular healing, or there is the opportunity for manifestation or the opportunity for insightful ideas to start flowing to you, you don't actually have to be in one of those states in order to be in the best possible brain health state, right?
That's right.
Those distinctions are extraordinary, like the claims, the conversations, the education, the inspiring. It is phenomenal that you can see that Henry's actually in a state of stress. He's presenting. He's clearly much better on the golf course than he might be in front of a crowd. But quite frankly, he's still got healthy brain state. How cool is that?
So at the end of each session, it gives you a little report. Depending if you've done the breathing, or I'll show you the other 2 things that we're going to run through, which is the fish and then the brain training. I'll just go to that now, actually. So this is a game that we do. When you calm down, the fish will all go to the bottom of the tank, and then the ocean sound will come on. If I'm stressed out, the fish will go orange and I'll go to the top of the tank. And then this is what's happening in the background. So I'll just run you through what each one of these mean. So if I start down the bottom on the x-axis, across the bottom here is delta. And you can see the writing at the top as well. So each one of these bars represents obviously different things inside the brain.
This is delta. What we're talking right now.
So delta is mainly when you're in NREM sleep. So that's when you're getting a lot of physical recovery. At the start of the night, you'll have the most amount of delta. It's also used for trauma release, which it's probably another webinar to explain that. The next one along is theta. So theta is this one here, and that's related to higher states of consciousness. So when you're in when you're going through a meditative state or when you're peak performance as well inside sport, you'll tend to have a lot more theta and alpha activity. Alpha are these two here. Alpha is also the gateway to your belief system. And in the middle of this is where the brain frequency variability, when you're in the ideal state, will be sitting somewhere in the middle of that. The SMR is the sensory motor rhythm. This is the start of your, if you struggle to stimulate yourself for training, you'll tend to have low SMR. So we'll actually tell you to train that to go up a little bit more. Majority of people are pretty good. Now, if you're thinking too much, that's where beta starts to come in, and you'll see the pattern will start to go up like this for someone that's overthinking.
Does that mean worrying, stress, concerns, fear? When you're in those states, you'll see that your electrical brain is actually sending those messages to your chemical brain, and that's when you're actually changing the chemical cocktail in your body. You're becoming more acidic and so forth. Do you see that in low beta, beta, and high beta?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So yeah, you'll see all of these sort of start spiking up, like so. Yeah. And then the final one is gamma. So gamma is a connection to the universe. It's also the seat of awareness as well. 40 hertz is a bit of awareness. Through this one, yeah. So that's on the x-axis. Up the side here is magnitude. When we're in a flow state, we're trying to get everything as low as possible. So I might just clear that. You'll tend to want to be somewhere around here. And the feedback is triggered from these little green triangles. So once I get below all these green triangles, you'll notice that the audio feedback turns on. And you can apply that to any task. So in the case of sales calls, etc., we're trying to get everything to calm down to get into that flow state. And obviously when you're getting the feedback, the beauty with feedback is you can learn up to 10 times faster when you're getting the feedback while you're learning that new process, whatever the new skill is. It accelerates your learning. Is there any questions on that part so far, or? Oops. I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Henry. I am actually getting a couple of questions on how much it is to buy a single unit. If you're a member of the Positive Prime community, you've gone to positiveprime.com and you already have an account and you're actually already using sessions, there's actually a special price and a deal. But in essence, consumer products actually start at, it's around about $500 US, isn't it, Henry? And yeah, you also need to pay for the apps, which is upfront at around about $50 per setup, and then there's an monthly fee, isn't there? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. It's 500 for the FocusBand, 50 for the Neuro Self-Care app, and then there'll be a small subscription for the cloud services.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be guided by a Positive Prime professional who has been certified, trained by Henry to actually explain what's going on and to give you some ideas and to coach you around improvements for various different outcomes, then that's actually an entire package. And you can also do certification through us. One of the questions is, can you use this with small children for focusing or calming them down? Can I just explain one really super quick story? I actually have a client who brought her daughter along. Her daughter is in her final year of high school. She suffers from anxiety. There's a lot of fear and stress around examinations in particular and the process of studying. This girl is really smart. She's a very, very intelligent young lady, and she really wants to study medicine when she graduates from high school. And so performing well on her exams is very, very important. But of course, as we all know, if you're not in a positively primed state as you're studying, you're not going to be learning in your most efficient fashion. You're not going to actually be retaining the information that you're learning. You're not going to be able to recall it as easily. And that's why being in a positive primed state whilst you're studying is absolutely phenomenal for performance. Well, this particular young lady came to my offices the other day in a coaching session, put the band on. I actually guided her through some breathing exercises. We played the fishies game. It was fun. It was playful. She was seeing in real time. And what was incredible is that we actually had some real distractions. So there were actually some people who very hurriedly, in a stressed manner, walked past my office at the time that she was actually trying to be in this beautiful state where she was very mindful, very focused, and she was watching a positive prime session. And I wanted to show her that particular different positive prime sessions for her cause her brain to respond differently. And if she wants cellular healing, if she wants regeneration to be occurring inside of her body, then the more delta, the more theta, the better. What happened was she saw what happened to her brainwaves when that huge distraction interrupted her. And I was able to demonstrate and have a conversation with her about what distractions do to her whilst she's studying. And most teenagers have no idea how damaged their brains are becoming because of the amount of distractions in their environment. It is unbelievable. So I feel like there is this incredible opportunity for us to train the youth, indeed us, but also the youth of today, in how do you actually experience this flow state? How do you maintain it, even in actual cases of stress, right? And how do you actually show them what different stimuli or impulses or situations and circumstances and relationships actually do in their lives? Interestingly enough, I basically was trying to help her to understand that if she positively primes herself prior to studying, the process of studying will be more efficient and effective. She got it in a heartbeat. Her mother rang me yesterday and said, the very fact that we were teaching her training that was about breathing and about being calm and focused and paying attention was absolutely phenomenal. It's like we changed the trajectory of this young woman's life in the space of 30 minutes, right? Now this young lady is motivated, self-initiating in watching her positive prime sessions every morning and night. I can see that in my client dashboard in the positive prime back end, right? So I have to say, if you suggest or you make a recommendation or you give a client a piece of advice and you're wondering whether they're actually going to be self-motivated enough, proactive in order to actually follow through, well, you can see in the dashboard. But I love it because for every single actual client that we've treated, I told the story last week, we treated a son and father, and the son has actually been given some feedback about his special needs. He's been to all sorts of different therapists. He actually believes that he's not smart. And interestingly enough, Henry did the coaching session and the child has completely changed in the space of a week. I've had feedback from that father. It's incredible. Now, you can either continue coming to a therapist or a coach or a healer like me and having my band put on your head and me actually guide you through various different, energy exercises or different kinds of activities, or you could buy one yourself and actually go through this process online. Ricky, you're so right. Millions of uni students need this. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. So the question was, can you use it on small children, Henry? I can't hear you. You're muted, Dell.
Just realised. Okay. Yes, absolutely. I've used it on my nephews. I've been using it since they were 2. We put it on their head, and then. Yeah, I've worked with 8-year-olds all the way up through to 18. Anyone that's been in junior high school, and then through to uni students as well. Oops. Okay,
Henry, do you think that we should show them group flow? Because this is a new frontier, right?
Yes.
So
I'll set
can
that
you
up now.
imagine having a leadership team all in sync, trying to actually solve some really big issues all at the same time, right? Amazing. Can you imagine having a group of people in a yoga class actually doing a meditation and all being in sync, all being in flow together? And can you imagine the influence of one person in that group on another's brain state, right? We are really, really edging on the esoteric here. I can actually influence Henry's brain health, and Henry can influence my brain health. We may have known this from gurus and mystics for 5,000 years, but we actually have the technology today. It's brand new, it's revolutionary, it hasn't been done before. It is absolutely extraordinarily phenomenal what we're saying. Like, I don't want to overhype this, but seriously, you've got no idea how unbelievably leading edge group flow is. And this particular professional piece of kit, you know, it's not a piece of toy, you know, EEG kind of consumer device that doesn't actually really work if you're moving around or if you're in a really noisy place. And, you know, this doesn't have the data being effectively dirtied by noise. This doesn't have the data, quite frankly, not being accurate because there's a lag issue. This doesn't have the issue where the data can't be trusted because actually the data is whilst the person is moving, playing a sport or doing anything else like that. So let's go, Henry.
Kim, do you want to start your group flow app as well?
Okay, I've got it. Group flow. By the way, for everybody who doesn't know this, Henry and I are not even in the same cities. So this is actually happening live, simultaneously, in sync. I've got the app. He's got the app. We've both got a headband on. We are, quite frankly, could be around the other end of the world. All right. Do you want me to join?
Join.
Oh,
Yep.
there you can see me. Kimbo, I'm here. Oh, okay. There's you. All right. I can actually also see that on my screen for anybody who's interested.
So on the screen there, you can see, obviously this is me on the, and then here's Kim. This initial one is when we're both in flow together, the crystal ball in the middle of the screen will light up green, which it is at the moment. So we're just doing a minute warm up and then we're going to start positive prime session. Now at the top of the screen, you can also see there's the graphs drawing. And then we can also see individual. So there's Kim's graph, and then there's my graph, and then what our group average is at the top of the screen. That's our voiceover. Do you want me to go right to the end or?
Oh no, you can just explain what's happening.
Okay, cool.
We're actually in flow together.
Yes. There we go. So over that whole session, we can see what was happening there. We were both starting to come down in alignment with each other. You can see the squiggly lines. And then our group average was starting to come good as well. We can have up to 12 users at once at the moment. What's it? Could it business be private? To Mary, yes, you can have a private group or a public group.
There's another question here, Henry. Do NBA players use group flow for team performance?
We haven't yet. This is pretty brand new, the group flow. So yeah, none of the teams as of yet. Hopefully we can get some teams in the next 12 months to adopt it. It's the baseball teams and basketball teams, I think, and football teams were the three that we were looking at.
How fantastic. All right, so are there any questions? Because we understand you've been incredibly attentive for an hour. If you would like to ask us private questions to each of us, or individually or collectively, feel free to email me or get in touch with Mayumi, as you would know how to do in our Positive Prime community, and we'll be very happy to answer any of your questions or listen to your inspired ideas. If you would like to be able to use this in your clinic, in your practice, in your spa, in your coaching, in anything that you're actually doing in your organizational consulting, then we're happy to help you guide. Henry and I are actually working together in an Australian organization with lots of employees, running a program that is effectively about changing culture and adhering to a brighter future, working towards a better vision for everybody. And we're actually using both of Positive Prime and FocusBand hand in glove. So it's really exciting and it's really interesting as well. Alrighty, so any questions before we jump out? Could a business be a private? Do you think you could catch concussion in football players?
Okay.
We've done a little bit of testing with the concussion. So it comes down to their resting brain state. It gives a squiggly line when they're healthy. And you do see a change. Yeah, it can pick up that they're not right if they've been hit too hard.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We would love to hear your feedback. And Henry, of course, someone's just said here, you are indeed absolutely brilliant for eliminating artifacts. That's what it takes when you have a standard of excellence and when you're working with people who are truly world-class and you're able to prove it with real results in real life, in very high-stake environments, where, quite frankly, a world #1 in one of these fields means $100 million. Or more. So there's a lot that's riding on this being accurate and this actually being what it claims it to be. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So grateful for you, and we look forward to hearing from everybody. Much love.
Thank you.
Any final comments you need to make, Henry?
No, that's it. I think they're just asking about emails.
Yes, and your emails. Do you know what, if you have received the message either via Facebook or via LinkedIn, just message me personally. And if you've received an email from us, just respond to the email that you got and we will get in contact with you ASAP. Much love. All righty. Bye.
Thank you.